We've got our Copa picks coming up for the weekend. Then we will do Euros. We have 973 games to preview with us. Brazil off the table. Let's bring on Argentina then. The World Cup reigning champions. They are the big favorites in this tournament on 6 points. So it's job done for them. They have qualified. They have not clinched first place. It turns out that after digging into it, goal differential is first in the groups, then goals scored, and then head-to-head. So in a scenario in which Canada wins, re-ups their goal differential, and ties Argentina on points, even though Argentina beat Canada head-to-head, Canada could still take first place. It will be a factor as we go through these conversations because for every team, there is a very little something to play for, even for the Uruguays, where it is very, very little and assumed that they're going to win their group. Let's start Argentina versus Peru. Michel, and what you make of this all South American matchup.
Yeah, like Argentina just needs not to lose here, right? Effectively is what they need to do. Ideally, I'd take like over 6.5 changes to the starting 11, but apparently that's not a market you're allowed to bet on. They don't need to break their backs in this one, though Peru will probably try to do literally that. We saw that against Canada. 5 of Argentina's last 11 group wins have been 1-0 wins. So that's what I'm focusing on here. Just a 1-0 win by Argentina. And Peru doesn't score a ton, guys. We've got to remember they've got 8 goals in the last 10 games. Half of those goals have come against the Dominican Republic, which rank 150th out of 210 countries.
Vladdy Guerrero Jr. in goal.
Right? So Peru's probably not going to score. Argentina doesn't need to do a whole lot. And you're probably looking at a Lautaro Martinez goal in the 88th minute just to lock this in, just for Ninja. So I'm on Argentina to win this 1-0 at a juicy plus 476. Wow. It's risky because David's right. There is a whole goal differential kind of argument you got to add in here. I just don't think they need to break their backs here. 1-0, get it done, go home, and you see this through.
Yeah, Peru and Chile basically haven't had shots on goal over the course of the last month, let alone get them in the back of the net. Let's talk Chile now. Canada, huge opportunity here. A tie. Canada clinched their spot in the next round. They would move on in Copa America, their first ever time competing in this competition. Of course, a win would lock themselves in as well. If Chile won, Chile automatically through with the way the points would set up. So Ninja, how do you read this one for the Canadians?
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for this one. They haven't played since 1995. I believe that was Alexis Sanchez's first season with the national team. So it's great to see him still in the mix here. But seriously, we've got Chile as the fave at plus 110. Canada coming back at about plus 265, and then the draw at plus 230. Chile on 1 point, like you mentioned, that 0-0 with Peru, and then the 1-0 loss late against Argentina. No goals for Chile, as we've discussed. This is must win for them, and we'll probably see them with the bulk of possession as they're averaging around 10% more of the ball than Canada so far at Copa America. Chile will try to rile Canada up with some physical play, very much like we saw in the Peru game. They are very even on a slew of other statistical categories. The one major difference is that Canada has 1 goal and 3 points. So it'll be interesting to see how Canada lines up and sets up defensively, knowing that a draw is enough. I kind of like under 2 here at plus 114. Copa is different, man. Goals are hard to come by in this tournament, and this could very well be like that Canada-Peru game, 0-0 for 70, 75, 80 minutes, and then a late goal from one side or the other. I'll be hoping for Canada, but I'll play under 2, plus 114 in this one.
The big question that everyone's asking, what time does the Maritime Messi show up? Is Jacob Schaffelberg in the starting lineup, or does he come off the bench? And if so, you got to think the goals will follow.
In your opinion, David, what would you do if you're Jesse Marsh here? Do you stick with Tejan wide right? Schaffelberg has come in, instantly given them a boost in attack, in the counterattack. Do you want to keep that as a super sub, or do you just put him out there in the starting 11?
I get it. I have a tough time with Schaffelberg because everything he does is a gamble of it's going to 80% be there. It's the 20% that you need. And the question becomes, is the course of the full game. If he gets enough 80%, will he finally hit that extra 20%? I think Tajon Buchanan is out of the starting lineup. I think Liam Miller might be as well, and that's where you bring Schaffelberg in, because it feels like another game where you probably push Alphonso Davies higher up the field, and you bring a Richie Larea in or someone like that to get the start as well. I wouldn't be shocked if Schaffelberg gets the start, because I think Jesse's trying to set a tone, and you have to at some point allow players to earn starting spots rather than just take them away for not performing well. And who else earned one more than him? I think Kamal Miller gets thrown into the starting lineup as well because of this. But I also wouldn't be shocked if you see a formation change. Go 5 in the back, play Fonzie as a wing back, maybe allow Tajon to play as a right wing back with a little bit less attacking responsibility, and then maybe bring Jonathan Osorio into the team to add as an attacker. I think there's options. To me, my big hope is that Jonathan David stays high. Like, he learned from last game. If I don't drop in and create, they'll create for me and I'll get the goal and I'll be the hero. I think that was the biggest moment of the last game that you're trying to ride as you go through to the next one. So this is going to be fun. Like, this is where the stakes are at. And you talk about in the summer, hockey is finished, NBA is done, NFL hasn't started. Like, I think the Blue Jays aren't very good. Can someone confirm that for me?
Confirmed.
Like, Canada Day weekend, the Canadian men's national team taking on a pretty big name in Chile. Alexis Sanchez, a guy people know, and a chance to go through in Copa America. Like, everything I said about the U.S. and struggling to change the sport, this is the moment. This is kind of what you waited for. This might be bigger than the World Cup if you can get the result and get the performance going forward. So a lot going into this game. I think it's going to be a really fun one as you go through it. That's all for Group A. Now, I did mention that the U.S. might be one of the only CONCACAF teams going out alongside Jamaica. I forgot Mexico. How could I forget one of the big losers in all of CONCACAF? That is Mexico. So Mexico sits in Group B behind Venezuela, who are perfect on 6 points. Mexico and Ecuador are tied on 3 points in second, and Jamaica already eliminated. Ninja, let's start with the weird one. Venezuela against Jamaica. Venezuela have clinched their spot, but again, goal differential comes into it. They haven't clinched first place, which probably means avoiding Argentina in a quarterfinal. And then Jamaica are already eliminated and have nothing to play for. How do you handicap a game like this?
Well, air quotes, nothing to play for. And I'll get into that angle sort of in a little bit here. But right now, Friday afternoon, we're looking at Jamaica plus 320, Venezuela minus 110, the draw at plus 245, the total 2.5 over plus 105. So, yeah, it's not entirely a case of nothing to play for, like you mentioned. Like, a Venezuela dub would be big for them in their path. Venezuela, and again, shout out to Michele, who we had on, a while back. He called them out to win the group right here on our live stream before the tournament kicked off. Great job by him. So we've sort of talked about it. Jamaica potentially had a little bit riding on this tournament, given that the players that they sought and brought into the program. And here we are with a bit of a whimper as opposed to a roar for this team. So really, for me, a lot here is riding on Jamaica's pride. Like, you'd expect them to want to go back home with something from the 2024 Copa. Venezuela could see some rotation. You don't want a player to get hurt or miss out a knockout stage game. It's chalky, but I'm going to play Jamaica to score here at minus 155. We talked about it with this team, a lot of experience, a lot of Premier League experience in this side. Your Mikel Antonios, your Damari Grays. So, yeah, nothing on the line here but pride for Jamaica, but I think we see a little bit of that in this game. I'd like to see them go home with some points here, so I'll bank on them scoring a goal here.
Let me throw a name out there. If anyone sees it come into the starting lineup, Kamar Dixon, 17 years old, has been brought into this Jamaica team, came off the bench in both games. He's electric when he's on the field. If you feel like there'll be a little rotation, he's a guy who, when he came on the field in the second half against Mexico, shot or was aggressive in every touch he took. And in a Jamaica team that maybe won't have the stars, they're going to look to someone. And if they do have the stars and he's alongside him, there's a little bit more support to get those opportunities in there for the squad. Also, a reminder, 2 yellow cards equal a suspension through the quarterfinals. So anyone for these teams like Venezuela, Argentina, Uruguay, who's sitting on 1 yellow card, assume they are not going to play in the entire game. And so there'll be some forced rotation and probably shorter benches for those big teams. This is the fun one. Win and go on. Mexico against Ecuador. It is a knockout game in the group stage. It is 2 massive footballing nations. It is going to be a pro-Mexico crowd, as we all know. Nick, how do you read this one?
Yeah, this one could be the game of the weekend, guys. I'll go too far as to say that. And I think both teams so desperate here, so desperate. Mexico, obviously, with a surprise loss to Venezuela. Ecuador with the Enter Valencia red card and the loss on match day 1. I think both teams to score is an excellent bet here at plus 105. But El Tri not playing their best football of late. Do they miss a Guillermo Ochoa out there? Do they miss a Lozano? Do they miss a Raul Jimenez? Probably, guys. So for that reason, I'm also liking the Ecuadorian money line at plus 177. El Tri's shock defeat, and Ecuador have proven to be a bad matchup. They failed to win or score in each of their last 2 games against the Ecuadorians. Mexico now losing 6 of their last 7 against CONMEBOL opponents and being outscored 5-0 in their last 2 games against those opponents, guys. So I can't back Mexico here. As you all know, I love this Ecuadorian team. I love me some Kendry Paez. I love Moises Caicedo as well, even though he plays for Chelsea. I think this is going to be so much fun to watch, and it could devolve into a knife fight like some of these past few nights have in Copa. But this is the match of the weekend for me.
I wish that there was an over-under on player holds face, rolls around next to a pile of players who are all pulling each other away from each other. One thing to think about, Enter Valencia, who picked up the red card in game 1, it is only technically a 1-game suspension. We haven't heard from CONMEBOL yet if they're going to increase it for trying to take a player's leg off, which is where you'd think you would, but feels like CONMEBOL's all okay with it. So Enter Valencia, you'd expect to just go straight back into that starting lineup. Kevin Rodriguez didn't really give them the production up top. Paez had to score the goal off the wing to get the win anyway. A guy that has put in goals. He is one of those we talked about who just chills all 3 years and then wakes up for big tournaments and shows up to score goals. So that's Group B. It is going to be incredible. It's going to be a special one. As you said, maybe the game of the weekend. Monday closes out on Canada Day with Group C. Bolivia against Panama, USA against Uruguay. I think I went into it enough at the start. Uruguay sitting in first place at 6 points. The U.S. and Panama tied in second place on 3 points. Bolivia are already eliminated on 0 points. Panama will play against Bolivia. A win and the right goal differential. They lock themselves in. Most likely a win, and they lock themselves into the next round, which will be a historic result for this Panama team. Nick, how do you handicap a game like this?
Yeah, obviously a shocking win for Panama against the United States just last night, guys. And talking about this next game almost feels like it's just a step too far for Panama, but they've got to be buoyed by that victory. So I think looking for qualification here, they go on to win this game. I like them at halftime, full-time to win the first half, and full-time at plus 234. But I'm also a big fan. Bolivia giving up multiple goals in every game so far this tournament. They've yet to score a game in this tournament. They've given up multiple goals actually in each of their past 4 games, guys. So I also like Panama on the Asian handicap, minus 175 as they push forward, look to eliminate the United States. In the United States, there'd be nothing like it. I think it's going to be pandemonium again. Another really, really fun match to watch as you see some maybe teams we don't think of as soccer powers. And this is what it's all about, guys. This is what the sport, this is what these tournaments are all about, seeing these smaller teams overachieve. And that's what we're seeing here at Panama.
It will be a huge one. Coco Carrasquilla suspended for his red card in taking out Christian Pulisic at the end of that game. He is the linchpin to the midfield, but Bolivia have put up very little resistance, and it feels like with nothing to play for. Ninja talked about it, political issues in their country going on behind the scenes. It feels like you're probably looking at a group of players who have shipped it in and are ready to go home. So Panama, an opportunity to probably control their own destiny. If not, the U.S. could surprise Uruguay with a win, add enough goals, and get themselves through to the next round. Michelle, can that happen?
Look, somehow Uruguay are the dogs in this one. When I got them, it was at plus 199. Last I checked, it was plus 203.
Wow.
Like, make sure here. Yeah, plus 203 on the money on the three-way money line for Uruguay in this one. Like I said, Bielsa wants more, man. Bielsa is hungry. He said, we still need to prove that we're one of the more important teams in this competition. Just because we beat Bolivia 5-0 and we won our first game doesn't mean we're one of the more important teams. We need to do it against a bigger side. USA is that bigger side, even if the results in this tournament may not show it. But I have no faith. I said it in the beginning with the US. Like, sure, they've got some wins under their belt, but like, look at some of the teams they beat. So the wins that they've had since 2023, St. Kitts and Nevis, Trinidad, Tobago, Uzbekistan, Oman.
That was a tough one. Uzbekistan was ready for it.
Right. Ghana, right? Not really big name teams here. Ghana maybe, the biggest, but even then that's a stretch. And then this year they've beaten Bolivia. That's it. That's all. That's the list. You're not looking at some really strong wins. And then you have the 5-1 smashing by Colombia. Sure, they drew Brazil, but now we got to see what Brazil is all about, and it doesn't look great. So the U.S. were hanging that 1-1 draw with Brazil as like, oh, yeah, we still got it, guys. We can do this. And then they perform like they did, and it doesn't look great specifically against Panama. Of course, undone by a red card, maybe a little bit unlucky-ish, maybe not. But like, I don't see any way through here for the U.S. I think Uruguay just plows right through them. Not like a 5-1 win type of thing. I just think they definitely win this, and I'll take the money the book is throwing here because the U.S. is the home team.
Yeah, that makes sense. It is a paper giant right now, or paper tiger for the U.S. And I think the Brazil draw, now you look at it and say, well, Brazil is probably part of the problem there. Not that the U.S. performed well in that one. So that's all we've got for Panama. If you don't know about it, go back and look up Panama 2014 World Cup qualifying, where the U.S. ruined their chance to eliminate Mexico and move into their first ever World Cup by scoring really late in Panama in a game that didn't matter for the U.S. Panama players all thought the U.S. was going to stop trying. It is like one of the most ridiculous moments. And then 4 years later, Panama did everything they could to help the U.S. get eliminated in 2018. It almost felt purposeful. So this is going to mean a lot to those teams and all those players. So that's all of our Copa picks going up all the way through Monday night.